Before we start, I want to thank everyone who has purchased my ebook Unmasking the Ego on Amazon. If you haven't, you can check the link below. That being said, only a small percentage of those who have purchased the ebook have actually taken the time to review it on Amazon. I take a lot of my time giving you free content here on this channel, and this is your chance to give something back. All I'm asking is that you take a few minutes and you write a review, because this will help the book rank higher in the system. So in this video I'm going to talk about the dangers of opinions, because this is actually a big problem for a lot of people when it comes to getting up the scale of consciousness and raising your levels. Opinions can be a big trap and a big enemy, because it stagnates you if you get too attached and married to your own opinions, and most people tend to do that, especially in the lower levels where you most likely will be if you have opinions and strong opinions, and if you're starting and you want to get up the scale, you will start at the lower levels usually, right? So that's the problem. You have to understand that opinions are not your friend and are not going to help you increase your level. It's just shortcuts to thinking in many ways, shortcuts to real insights. Because if you have an opinion, it suddenly becomes important because it's your opinion and you believe that you are important. That means your opinions must be important. The problem is that your opinions are just a reflection of your current level of consciousness. You will attract a certain worldview and a certain set of thoughts and all these things and opinions and whatnot. They all come to you based on your frequency, based on your level of consciousness. So if you get married and attached to these opinions, that means you're basically stuck at that level, because you can't open yourself up for the possibility of a higher perspectives. You believe that you know because you read something in a book, or you heard some teacher talk, or you had some thoughts in your mind when you smoked weed, or whatever it is. Opinions comes from all over the place, but they are not important, okay? They are just opinions at the current level. It's like you're swimming around beneath the surface in the oceans, and a school of fish comes by, and you want to attach and hold on to those fish instead of just observing them a little bit and then moving on to something else. And that's what opinions are. They're not meant to be held on to for a long time. But most people, a lot of people actually, they have the same opinion their whole lives about anything. And these people, they are so predictable. Like, for example, in my family, my father, for example, he's been around the level 200 his whole life. He was born down a little bit above 200. He's been above, a little bit above, basically as average as it gets, right? A little bit above 200 his entire life. And he is the most predictable person. I know exactly what he will say. Any kind of input or whatever I say to him, I know exactly what kind of answer he will give, based on the fact that he has never changed his opinions on anything. He is unmovable, like a brick wall, because many people are like that, and you will especially see it with your parents in many cases. But they cannot be moved, they cannot change. They have this same. He's even bragged about it, like he says he's the same person in his head, like at age 55 or age 60 or whatever it is, as he was when he was 18. He says that like it's something to be proud of. Like, he has never learned a single lesson. He hasn't developed or changed his opinion since he was 18 years old. He's gone through his entire life, basically banging his stubborn head in the same brick walls, being annoyed by the same things, being irritated by the same things, being angry by the same things, and having the same opinions his entire life. And I've seen this in so many people. And obviously, in these lower levels, you also take yourself and your opinions extremely serious, because you have to compensate for the fact that you don't really know anything. You're really extremely ignorant at those levels, and you're in the dark, and you think you have to, if you take yourself really seriously and you talk very seriously, and then people will take you seriously. But in the end, you don't really know anything. You haven't a clue what life is really about, what planet you're on, what anything is about. And you have to admit that. That is why these philosophers like Socrates and these people say, like, knowing that you don't know is the ultimate wisdom. It's not really the ultimate wisdom, but it's a very good start, because if you have that as a starting point, okay, I don't know, I'm open for learning, I'm open for growing and changing my opinions. Then, if you don't do that, you will definitely stagnate. You will be locked in whatever current level of consciousness you have, And you will not grow, you will not develop, because you're married to your opinions and you take yourself and your opinions very seriously. And opinions are just thoughts, basically, that have become sort of trapped in you, or you have sort of locked these thoughts and these opinions in your mind, and you're sort of married to them and attached to them. And that means there is no room for new opinions and new perspectives to come. And in the whole idea about growing in consciousness is that you have to be open to let go of everything and accept new things to come in, and then let go of those things and those opinions and those perspectives, and repeat, rinse and repeat all the way up the scale. That's the only way to do it. But most people don't have the patience, or they are too ignorant to understand these things, and they think themselves to be very important, like most people do, especially lower end of the scale. You take things very seriously, and that's the big problem. You stagnate. So what are you going to do about it? I mean, you just have to think about opinions and all these thoughts and all these things that they're just temporarily showing you a certain thing, and then it's time to move on as soon as you move out of that, or you find different lessons or different perspectives. Because your opinions and you yourself are not really important. Think about it. Why, of all people, would your opinions be more important than the next door neighbor, or your friend who has the opposite opinions and whatever? All opinions attracts the opposites. You will always find somebody to argue with. If you have a strong opinion about anything, it attracts somebody that you can argue about those opinions with, because that's how a negative mass consciousness work, or then the collective negative ego, collective shadow works. It will make you attract people you can create conflict with, and that's what you see all over the world with all sorts of opinions. They create or attract conflict, because you will attract the opposite to challenge those opinions. And that's a good thing for the collective shadow, because it creates conflict, which is the food source of the collective shadow. So, I mean, it's one thing to have opinions and, speculate or philosophize on certain things and these kind of things. But if you become strongly insistent on your opinions, that's when the real problem starts. So, that's a really something that many people don't even get, because they're so stuck in these opinions. And they're so insistent on their own opinions that they are in the right. You see this all over the spiritual communities. You see it in the Bashar communities. You see it so many places. You see it all over the place. And it's all just bullshit, because opinions have nothing to do with peace and inner transparency. And, basically, you either know something or you don't. That's the only principle you need to have. I had that from the very beginning when I started searching more than 20 years ago. I always knew that I cannot believe in all sorts of abstract stuff from books or whatever teachings people give me, or come from internet or channelings or whatever. I have to find out for myself, and to do that I cannot get married to any opinions. I have to be open for change and seeing things differently as I develop. And more importantly, you have to stop insisting on your opinions that you are right, because you're not. Your opinions are based on your level of consciousness, and if you're insistent on these opinions, you're most likely not very high level of consciousness either, because people who are actually in the high levels, they don't even have opinions. Okay, in the higher 500s, you don't even have what you call opinions, in the sense that you do in the lower levels. Okay, that whole thing changes completely. What you have in the higher end of the scale is basically you either know or you don't know. And if you don't know, you don't have a strong opinion about it. You can have okay, I know for 99% certainty, but it's still just, a theory. It might be wrong. You're always open for the fact that you can be wrong, and you don't get married or attached to, whatever. You don't take it personally. You don't see that, okay, this is my opinion, so it must be important because I'm important, right? You don't do that anymore in the 500s. And even in the 400s, in the higher levels, you have a completely different relationship to all these so-called opinions and perspectives, because you understand what they are. They're just temporary things that you can see, lenses that you can see the world through, so to speak. So, that's the big problem. You become more and more insistent on your opinions the lower you go on the scale, making it even harder to get out of those opinions, which keeps you trapped in the lower levels. and you're most likely artificially trapped there because you're most likely born in the mid 300s if you listen to this, or if you're part of the ascending earth and whatnot. Most of these people who are part of this, they are actually born in the mid 300s, but they get stuck in the lower levels, and part of the reason they get stuck is because they get too insistent on keeping their current opinions and worldviews and perspectives. It's very simple. You have to have one principle. In many cases, going up the scale requires simple principles that you follow consistently, but you never deviate from. At least if you deviate from them, you correct yourself quickly. And one such principle is to basically never have an opinion. Because what you need to have is that you either know something 100%, you know for sure, you know it. And knowing is different from opinions. So you either know something, or it's basically just a working theory or a temporary whatever. It's not important. But if you know something, you know, and that's okay. Then you know 100%. All right, you can know many things. What people do is that they are too lazy intellectually, or whatever. They're too lazy to basically do the real research. They don't care too much, so they just form an opinion, and that's since they are stating that opinion to other people or whatnot, it becomes their identity, and it becomes part of who they are, and it becomes so-called personal, and it becomes important to them, and it starts to form your identity, and you sort of create this, it's just one opinion at a time. You create a whole identity out of it, and that gets you stuck in these false realities. And that's not really how it works. If you want to go up the scale, you have to let go of opinions, not lock them in and become married to them. That's a big trap, actually. It's unseen in many cases, and not something that many people talk about, really. But you see it all the time. People get insistent on their opinions. You see it with Bashar people. You see it with all these people who are left-leaning, and also people who are pro-Trump, and these people can also do the same. I mean, everybody has this. It depends on your level, but the higher you go, the less insistent you become on any opinions, and the more flexible and open you become to changing perspectives, because in the low levels, it's like a big deal to change your mind. That feels like a loss, because your ego is in it. You're like, you think you're right about everything, and if you let go of a perspective, that means you were wrong. No, there is no such thing as you being wrong. It's just changing of perspectives. As you see things differently, you grow and evolve, and obviously that's going to change how you view anything. So if you insist on being right, and that you're right and your opinions are right at a certain level, that means you will be stuck at that level, whatever that may be. And the more insistent you are, the lower you most likely are on the scale. So in the higher end of the scale, like I said, you don't really have opinions, because you have already learned the lesson that there is no such thing, that these opinions are just illusions that you need to let go of and change, and you will attract different opinions. They're based on your frequency and whatnot, and how you see the world based on your level of consciousness. So in the 500s and whatnot, you either know something or you don't, and you don't really operate with opinions at all. Doesn't mean you can offer your take on a subject that you don't really know 100%, but then you know yourself that that's what you're doing. But most people who state opinions, they state the opinions like they're facts, like they know for sure, but they don't know. That's the problem. I mean, you see all these spiritual people, they read certain things in a book, or they heard something from Bashar or from some teacher or some channeling, and they repeat those things like they know them, because they've become internalized as opinions they have for themselves. But it's not based on their experience of reality, so it's not really real. It's just, that it sounds good, so they want to say the same, and they repeat it like a parrot. And that's not really a good thing, okay? That just makes you annoying, and it doesn't make you wise. It just makes you annoying and a little bit strange, because you're just repeating all these things that you've heard that you don't really know about. I mean, what's the point of that? You could just repeat it to some people, and then they will repeat it to other people if they take it in. Doesn't help anything, doesn't change anyone's level of consciousness, okay? It's not about opinions. That's a waste of time. It's a trap. It keeps you locked into your current level. It doesn't help anything. It only creates arguments and conflicts and whatnot, so it's meaningless in that sense. It just feeds the beast. So you have to operate on this principle that You either know something 100% based on your own experience or logically or whatever. That's different from having an opinion. You can still have a take on things, and you can still offer your, your so-called opinion on things. But then it's just an opinion. You don't take it too seriously. You don't get married to it. That's the big difference, okay? The big difference is the attachment to it. If you don't have that, and the insistence. If you avoid those two things internally and just, okay, I can offer my take on it, but this is just my take, I don't really know for sure. You can repeat that, you can say it out loud, or you can say it to yourself or whatever. But you have to know internally that you're just offering an opinion. It doesn't mean you know, and you're not supposed to know, because you don't know. You can only know if you know. It's no pointing in faking that you know because you want to be smart or want to be wise when you're not. That's just ridiculous, okay? So you have to understand these simple principles like this. That's what gets you up the scale if you follow this very simple thing that you don't know anything until you know, and when you know, you don't need an opinion, and until you know, you don't need an opinion either, because that's going to stop you from knowing. You just need working theories. You can have that as long as you know that they are not reality. They're just ideas you have about a certain thing, and you just admit that to yourself. Then you will avoid this trap.